Welcome to the Kerner office. This is the second part of the Shannon episode that we started a week ago today. Today, we speak in a little more generalities about entrepreneurship, how to make your first dollar, what audiences online are the most valuable, how to have resilience as an entrepreneur, some practical advice for people just getting started in making money outside of a 9 to 5. We used an analogy about a slingshot that I think you'll like. We talked about compounding. So last week, we talked about a lot of specific business ideas. And this week, we're talking in more generalities about entrepreneurship and how to get started and how to persist when things get tough. But we did talk about some tactical stuff as well. Facebook groups, Etsy opportunities, Airbnb opportunities. You're going to like it. Enjoy. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll see you next time. I'm glad you brought up the accessibility part because I'm really leaning into that as well. Like you can go upstream or you can go downstream, right? Like you can talk about billionaires or you can talk about side hustles. And I like talking about things that are more accessible. It's not as sexy, not as cool. What are you working on right now?
I often comment that people are in love with the end state of entrepreneurship. That's awesome. And that attracts me too, of course. But I feel compelled to share the work, and the little stuff. And like we were talking about earlier, it's great. Yeah, you want to make $1 million, but let's start with 1,000 and let's get a system, because if you make a mistake at the $1 million level, well, it has a much greater impact on your life, right? It can be very negative because, can you afford wipeout risk? Maybe in your 20s, but could you do it with your family in your 30s or 40s? I don't think so. You get to make those mistakes on the way up, and then you take a little more risk and a little more risk. It's that mistakes are tuition, and you're building your education and your curriculum along the way. So I'm with you. And I'm doing it right now. We were talking about content creation. I've wanted to productize my knowledge forever and just didn't know how to do it. And so now I'm doing it. Some stuff doesn't work. Some stuff works. But I celebrate the small wins, the $100, the $1,000. That's to me, that gives me energy, and I can feel it. And it makes me want to get up earlier, want to stay up later, want to be in front of my computer more. That gives me energy.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting is I've been on YouTube. And so now I have like data to back up the quote, the value of an audience when you talk about different things. Because YouTube will show, like I interview people that are ultra high net worth, and then I interview people that are making a few $1,000 selling garage shelves on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Everything in between.
Yep.
Thank you. And one thing that I've noticed, because YouTube will break down your CPM, your cost per mil, or the value of the audience on a per video basis. And when I interviewed a guy named Matt, who started an Alpine slide, cost him $8 million. He's got a bunch of 8-figure hits, and he's very interesting, very engaging. And the CPM on those videos is like, I'll say RPM, because CPM is before YouTube takes their 50 or 45% cut. Revenue per mil is what I actually take home. And so, Mr. Beast's RPM is like $2 to $3. A lot of business channels are like $6 to $8. And when I talk to these ultra high net worth guys, for whatever reason, the RPM on those is like $8, which is above average. It's good. When I talk to the guys doing a side hustle or something more accessible, the RPM is over $20.
Is that right?
Like, which is unheard of for YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is that reversed? And I was thinking about it, and it's like, the people watching this are probably more likely to take action.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
They're to the point in their life where like they're already likely successful. They're ready to go to Home Depot and buy a chop saw. They have money, like maybe they're making 6 figures in their job, but they don't like their job. And they're to the point where they're ready to take action. Whereas if you look at the RPM of like a motivation channel that just has like Elon Musk quotes, it's like $4 because it's just dreamers. They're not doers. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. And I think that most people, we all strive for something better. We want something better for ourselves, maybe for our kids. Whether it's something we want, it's a physical thing or education. So whatever it is, there's cost associated with that, your time, money. And I think that, those folks that can watch that, and as you talk about, these actions are what makes it work. And I'll give you an example.
It's tactical.
Yes,
Specific.
it's not just this great strategy of like I talk about auctions all the time, but I don't say like, "Hey, you should go buy this couch, these couch returns from Costco." That sounds like a nightmare to me. But I want you to get in the game and start studying liquidations and returns because you can start on a small level and ease your way in. You can do it out of your garage and then ease your way up. But when I was running like 3 or 4 companies and making good money and everything else. And then Etsy came along, right? And I was like, what is this Etsy, man? And I was like, I got some time in the evenings. I had already started a couple of companies. Like, I got to figure this out. So I'm studying. I'm just up on Etsy. I'm just looking around. What's selling that seems like a lot? And I found that these guys and women were making these kind of steampunk light fixtures out of this black metal pipe, and they look really cool. And I was like, man, I got a spot. It's like, you know what? And they're like $750. They're selling these really nice big wall things on there. I was like, I could totally do that. Just come on, I'm not there. So I went and bought all the pipe. I was shocked that the pipe to build this big thing was like $250. Got the wire, got these fancy LED bulbs, and I learned it. I was like, okay, man. And I spent probably a week in the evenings building the first one. And I put it up in my house, and it's still up in my kitchen, tucked up between the open beams in our kitchen. And then I talked to my wife. I was like, I'm going to make these up. And she's like, well, how long does it take? Are you going to do it? And I was like, well, yeah, maybe I don't want to do it, but I could. I learned how to do it, and you could have made a few $100s per light and managed it and this kind of thing. But I think it's that curiosity as well. And the biggest gift for me to being an entrepreneur is confidence. Like I've started telling people that want to be coached, I was like, I sell confidence that you have once you can make a little bit of money on your own for some of these businesses and ideas we're talking about today, it changes your whole life and your whole framework. You talk to people, you're more confident. If you have a regular 9 to 5 or W-2, it's going to help you there because all of a sudden you're more confident. And maybe it allows you to speak up and offer different ideas because you learn something in your side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the world is just full of people that want more. And your videos, coming back full circle, it just attracts those. And my posts on auctions and 3.5 million people that want to learn about Costco auctions. Okay, well, I know that system, but it's a system. It's not just you should go buy this and do that. So I think that's why.
Yeah. Where do you think your confidence came from?
Well, when I got out of college, and even when I was in college, we talked about this last time I was on your show about flipping trucks while I was in school and looking for the unfair advantage of getting the magazine that came out early. You have to solve problems like crazy when you're doing that stuff and like, oh, this didn't work or that didn't work. And so when you're younger, I kind of fell in love with problem solving. And because then the outcome would come and you would sell that truck, make $1,000. That was our whole system. Can we make $1,000 a vehicle? And that built my confidence a lot. And I learned a lot from, I mentioned this before, my mom taught me that reality is flexible. That was just a part of my upbringing the whole time. Is you get to create your own life, your own reality, all that stuff. So that helped me build a lot of confidence. And as I started to find a little bit of success, I would say every business side hustle I've ever done, I don't make a lot of money in the beginning. We were just congratulating each other for making, $100, $150. So that is how I built my confidence over time when I realized that I didn't have to have someone else tell me what to do. And no matter what happened, the worst mistakes I have ever made, I could always start over because I learned the system of making money. I understood it. And I'm a product guy. So I learned the study, research, find the delta between the buy and the sell. I learned the relationship part of it. So that built my confidence.
Because I'm over here thinking like it's almost a chicken and egg. Like you kind of have to try and problem solve and fail to get some confidence. But how do you do all that without any confidence? And I'm thinking of myself where I got my confidence, and that was knocking 50,000 doors in Eastern Europe for 2 years and getting rejected almost every time. So I'm trying to think of back to us trying to be tactical and specific. What do we tell a 25 or a 55-year-old or anyone in between that says, I want to do this. I want to do what you're doing. I want to do entrepreneurship, but I don't really I don't really like problem solving yet, but I want to like problem solving. And I don't know if I'm confident yet, but I want to be confident. What do you do with that?
Yeah, like I get DMs like that where it's like, where do I start? And especially when I don't have any money, how do I get started? Well, I think you have to study, you have to research. The way I would start is I would have my laptop on my lap. I just wouldn't watch Netflix or TikTok or whatever. I'd just be sitting there. It's like, okay, well, how are these people making money? Go on X or YouTube or whatever, and just okay. In my case, so you're buying and selling stuff, and I'm giving all these links to these auction sites, and then how much can you access? Can you put, if you don't have any money, can you put a few $100s on your credit card? I don't recommend that, but that's what I did. I got 40 credit cards that had $10,000 each, and that was my first line of credit, $400,000, because I believed in myself and I was young, and I was like, well, what's the worst that can happen? And so if you study and research, it's boring. It's not sexy. And most people quit because, like in my case, I look at an auction, it's like, I can't make any money. I looked at 10 auctions and I couldn't make any money on any of those. Well, maybe you should, change your framework and just buy something that you can get your money back. So you could exercise a muscle, learn. There's a price to pay. With my handbag business that I started, I knew nothing about this stuff at all, zero. And so it took me almost a year to really develop it. But the way I started was buying from other handbag resellers. Not a lot. I bought cheap bag, $50 here, whatever, $100, just so I could get the experience. How did they respond to me? What emails did I get? What does the box look like? What's the packaging? Is there a thank you card inside the box? All those things. And then I created notes. I wrote a book because I was, okay, I'm going to do this. I know how to do this. They do this terrible. This is an opportunity. And while I was learning that, I was just researching on LinkedIn. Who works for Louis Vuitton? Can I reach out? Yeah, it didn't go anywhere. But who's the big handbag sellers? Oh, that store. Can I reach out to Macy's? Can I reach out to Bloomingdale's? Yes. I reached out to a guy and said, what do you do with your returns or overstock? And he turned me on to the Macy's liquidation website. And that's where I started. And they were mostly garbage. But I don't know if I mentioned this.
But you're further along. You're further down the road.
Yes. You're swimming upstream. Think of that as a fish. You're swimming constantly upstream. And you don't know where you will wind up, right? Most people
But you're making progress.
Yes, you're making progress. You're getting that little thing as you're learning, and you're building this foundation. And I think you have to congratulate yourself on the small wins, the little achievements. Oh, look, I got my resale permit. Awesome. That's huge. You don't know, 99% of the people won't even do that, right? And I got a business license, and I cleared out a corner of my garage and put some racks, like that rack guy that you posted about. You built some racks, and so you can stack stuff in there. Check, write it down. I don't like to-do lists. I love to-did lists that I can write down what I did. It makes me feel like I've achieved more, right? So I say, what I got done today? I got this, I got this, I got this. That's what I would do to get started. It's a mental game, right? It's definitely a mental game.
All right. If you are watching this clip right now, you are watching this on YouTube. And if you are a fan of podcasts, please check out my podcast while you're at it, because sometimes I have podcasts that aren't on YouTube and sometimes I have YouTubes that aren't on podcasts. So check out the Kerner Office on any podcast platform, or you can go to tkopod.com. Also, my newsletter, we'll throw that in there. There are no ads. It's weekly. It's different content than my podcast and YouTube. Newsletter.chrisjkerner.com. You'll see the link, and we'll see you there. Each one of those steps, like they pick up a book and they're 20% more likely to get there. All right. Now they go get a credit card and they're 40% more likely. Then they go buy some shelving to clear out the garage to buy something. They're 130% more likely to get there. Then they get their reseller certificate. And it's like their successes just compound in an exponential way, not in an incremental way.
No, it's exponential. You that's right.
And you might even say the first step is 120% more likely. And then after that, it's like 30% and 40% and 30%. I think you just answered my question. And this is a question I've had for a while, which is like, how do you get started? And I'm thinking to a lesson that I learned at church, which is like, how do you have faith? Well, you have to start with a desire to have faith.
That's right.
Right. If you don't have a desire, then you'll never get it. Right. Once you have a desire, pretty good chance you'll make it. And so anyone that DMs us saying, how do I get started? I don't have any money. Okay. There's something there.
Here you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think the research,
it's definitely, and I think you have to you can't just want it. You have to decide. You just have to decide that this is going to happen. And for one reason or another, when my kids were little and I was like, oh, I don't want them to go to a government school, we just decided they're going to private school. And I was like, man, I don't have the extra $1,000 a month. So we had to start a business to generate the $1,000 a month. And we did it. But we worked every night from 10 to midnight for over a year before we made $500 a month. We weren't at the 1,000 yet. Took like a little over a year. And then once we made $500, I hired somebody to do the work and I paid them the $500 because it was only about an hour, maybe so a day. And then as the site grew, it started kicking off money, took more time. We paid that person a little bit more. It was probably 2 years before I could take $1,000 a month, right? But 8 years later, it was generating $30,000 a month. And that's how you start. I got my wife involved because I got her buy-in because she said, hey, we're in this together. And we decided to do this. It wasn't, it'd be really nice if we could send our kid to private school. No, we decided it was the way. And we did it. We went in the hole for the first couple of years and then we crawled out. So it is exponential. The analogy I really like is all this stuff is like a slingshot. And as you start, there's just this rubber thing hanging there. Everything you do, you're pulling back and you're pulling back and pulling back and pulling back. And at some point in your life, and for, we've had a great life, but for me, it always made, good money. But that slingshot that I pulled tight for I didn't really get to release it and really blow my life up until I was in my 40s because everything came together of all these people I knew and all these resources I had. And I had a building and I had this and I had a forklift and I had all these employees. And so that little start is that you have to decide to do it.
It's so interesting because there are other guys on Twitter or in the business world that hear stories like that. I pulled it back for 20 years and I didn't let go until I was in my 40s. And some people take that information, influencers, and say, business is freaking hard, man. It's a lot harder than you think. Like, just if you think it's too hard for you, keep your job, man. Just keep your job. Like, that's probably for you. They take this really negative approach to it because people aren't willing to put in the work. People just don't have the self-control. People aren't grinders. They don't. And it's like, I hear that same story and it's like, you can do it.
You can't do it, man.
It will always take longer than you think.
Yes, it will.
Everything. Yep. Always. But like, you can do it because it gets easier as you go.
It does get easier. That's very important to point out. Yeah. Because as you stack these skills up, as your talent stack increases, it just helps you with everything else. So that's crucial. That's crucial.
Some of the people that they DM us, how do I start? And then we'll go do research.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the first litmus test. It costs $0. And if they're doing the research and they're like procrastinating that, and you and I just said, we're both procrastinators, right?
Yeah, for
if
sure.
They're procrastinating the research and they're treating it like a homework assignment and then they research a little bit and they don't really like it. To me, that's a signal that they like the idea of entrepreneurship, but they're not going to actually like it, right? Still important that they did the research, they can check the box. But on the other hand, if you start doing the research and you're energized and you're not procrastinating it and you're staying up late and you're digging and you're going down these rabbit holes, this is going to be for you. Like, you got to persist because you will like it. It is fun.
It's fun. And I think that in the beginning, you have to give a lot of energy. I'm sure I mentioned this last time, but I'm going to say it again because it's so important to me. You're just grinding when you're tired and you don't want it. It's like going to the gym. You're burnt out, whatever. You got a headache or you have this, but you're giving lots of energy. But as you start to find stuff and things start to come together, these things give energy back to you. And that's where you get to that point where you want to stay up later. You want to get up early. You want to do these things. And that's what I look for. I tried to start a software business and it was a disaster. And 11, 12 months into it, I was like, this is exhausting, dude. It gives me nothing. And then my guy that, I hired to help kind of bailed out on the project. And I was thinking, I'm not into this. But I had all this content and I was like, okay, now I can repurpose this and do something else with it. And wind up publishing the Poshmark Unlocked book because I'd learned this system and pushing it. So look for the energy. Look for when it starts giving you energy back. That's a sign that things are working.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what ideas are giving you energy today? Is there anything you're particularly excited about or something that you're not even going to capitalize on, but you think that someone else should?
Yeah, I think I still love the Etsy stuff. I think that's still an undervalued market. Everybody can easily make something, and you don't have to make it until they buy it. That's what I love. You just have to make some samples or whatever, and you can put it up there. No risk, doesn't cost you much. And I think that's, if you're creative in any way or you have something to offer, I think that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I really like, because I've been doing some research on this, is the Airbnb local guides. If you live in San Francisco or you live in Dallas or whatever, and people are coming to Dallas Fort Worth from another country, why don't you go take them around, take them all to show them the best spots, the restaurants, whatever. And people are making very good money it's a side hustle. It's like driving for Uber, but
Mm-hmm.
it's that same thing. It gets you thinking on another level, and you can offer all kinds of stuff. And actually, I noticed the Airbnb guide selling like content, like guides, like, okay, we
Mm-hmm.
come in and then I have this, and you can have different levels. I'll come take you around for the day and it's $500, or I'll give you these guides to the DFW area. And these are all the things that I grew up with, or this kind of thing. I think that's fascinating to me. Easy, right?
Interesting.
Not
Yeah.
easy, but accessible, right? You have
yeah,
to,
accessible.
you have to create that stuff. One thing that drives me crazy constantly with our vacation rentals is property management and cleaning services. Highly undervalued opportunity, because everybody hates their cleaning services. Everybody I
Mm-hmm.
talk to, just go up in Facebook and start searching for, like, I'm in the Tahoe area, but if you search other touristy areas, you'll see everybody. I need a new cleaner. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. They didn't do this kind of stuff. I think it's a big opportunity. And there's tons of guys up on X selling like their courses and stuff on how to start virtual cleaning businesses. I would start talking to those guys, but I would focus. I think the opportunities in vacation rentals, I think the shine is off of that business right now in general.
Yeah.
But we use them in a different way. We only buy vacation rentals for places we want to go stay. And so I use this, I call it slippery math. So you get a bunch of depreciation. Yeah, you cover the costs of all the properties that you're buying, but you get to go there 3, 4, or 5 times a year, and it's amazing, that kind of stuff.
Quote,
So
for free. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What would you say if someone wanted to start like a cleaning company specifically for Airbnbs? And as you said, it is hard. I've had an Airbnb too. And is it possible that someone starts that and it's so hard, like they have all those headaches that you're talking about, and it turns them off from entrepreneurship entirely? Or does that just harden them and make the next one even easier?
It could go both ways, but back to the way the framework, the outlook. If you're listening to this and we're talking about these specifics, you're going to hear these underlying terms and the systems we're talking about. And a big part of it is optimism and
Mm-hmm.
looking at things a certain way. You could pick apart, go look at the comments on Chris's posts and on mine. There's always people that are telling you why it won't work. Well, I don't want to hang out with those people. I want to hang out with people that are like, I want to try this. How do I learn more? Because
Yeah.
that's interesting and fun, and that makes life great, right? And I'm definitely one of those, our best days are ahead of us people. So can you teach optimism? I don't know, but I hope we're teaching that a little bit. And so, yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, you're going to have headaches and problems, and people are tough to deal with. But if you can figure out what is the difference in my solution that others are not offering. Maybe you just offer a super concierge high-end service.
Mm-hmm.
You're the most expensive in that area, but you bring flowers and a bottle of wine for the next guest and all these kind of really distinguishing yourself in a way that you're not selling a commodity service like cleaning,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably a commodity. So that's the way I would look at it. And yes, you're going to fail, but you just have to keep zigging and zagging to get through it.
Yeah. Anytime I'm doing market research, let's say I'm in a Facebook group for Airbnb owners, there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
I find that the magic is not in the post. The magic is always in the comments.
Yep.
And you can find third-party tools that will export the comments to a spreadsheet. And then you can upload the spreadsheet to ChatGPT and just say, what are all the commonalities? Or make me a word cloud from this spreadsheet. Thousands of comments. And it's like late. It's like, wow, they just want people to be on time. And if no one's complaining about expensive, then it's like, okay, everyone's cheap. No one wants to pay more.
If you could solve that problem,
maybe I can be more expensive.
Yeah, that's it. Is you are You want to be like, hey, yeah, we're the premier service. Our prices are this for a reason. We have a big place up there that it's basically $500 every time we turn it around, right? And so,
Jeez.
but they miss stuff all the time, and it's like it's such a simple that I don't run that business. My wife does, so I'm her employee there, so I try to make recommendations, but it works out. She does that, and if you've worked with your spouse, having a separation of duties is crucial. I can be a micromanager. That's not a good thing for your wife. So I walk around and go, this is so simple that to organize this they don't even have a checklist, like every room and little things that are so easy. Like every TV needs to be turned on to be sure it's working every time you clean the house, because it's all streaming services now. It's not just the way it used to be. And did somebody take the remote? Did the remote need batteries? We're selling a premium. We rent this place out for $1,000 to $1,500 a night. We're trying to sell a premier experience, right? And you have to look at all that stuff, because then you get a call from the guest that says the 75-inch TV doesn't turn on and we can't watch the football game. That's a big problem. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
And they miss that stuff. It drives me crazy.
I think the best way to start a more difficult type of business is to do everything yourself in the beginning. I wouldn't recommend that for a lot of businesses, but like, you know what? This house is going to take me 7 hours to clean, and I'm going to do it 100% myself for a month straight. And I'm going to know everything about that house. So that way I can ensure that the quality is as good, if not better, than what I was doing. Because a lot of people, they buy these courses and these programs, and they buy into the sex appeal of not doing anything, managing properties from across the globe. And I've owned a cleaning business. It was freaking hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But I did it that way. I never cleaned one house.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could tell you, we bought a place recently up along a river here. It's like 5 acres, has a couple houses on it. And my wife cleaned the house for the first few times. It's about 2 hours away from us. Like, okay, I'm going to go up, because she needed to understand everything that was going on to build the guide to give to the cleaner and the person that says, hey, you need to do this. And this is the way you do the sheets, because that's how you make a bed in a hotel. This is what we want to do. All that kind of stuff. I do everything manual in the beginning, and then I start looking for ways to automate, because I don't know it. I don't know it enough to building some courses and stuff on Kajabi. And yeah, I have some help, but I said, I need to build one. I need to understand how to solve these issues and what's the pain points and what works and what doesn't. I'm a big fan of that. Yeah. I think it's important.
The reason there's Facebook groups full of people complaining about their cleaning business, and no one's complaining that they don't have a Chrome extension that tracks when their emails are opened, is because it's really, really easy to build the ladder, right? From the comfort of your room anywhere in the world. And it's really hard to go clean a house by yourself with your own two hands, which means there will always be opportunity in businesses that require some sort of a manual labor, because it fights human nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's it for the Shannon episodes. I'll probably have him on at least once a month or so. Let us know in the comments if I should. And I think you'll agree that we should. So have a good week.